Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to, I guess I can't say another webinar because we're trying something different this time. Um, a lot of you know Patients Engage, but I will do a quick introduction, and a lot of you have also contributed to Patients Engage over the last few years. So thank you. Thanks a lot for contributing, as well as informing and empowering others on similar journeys. Today, we are focused on breast cancer and COVID-19, and also it's the launch of the Cancer Power Circle, which is an online support network. Um, Patients Engage is an online platform. We've been operational for over 5 years, and we focused on holistic and evidence-based management of chronic conditions. Range of conditions, cancer is a significant area that we focused on. And we've always focused on the perspectives of patients and family caregivers. We strongly believe in the value of lived experiences and how being informed and engaged and proactive with your health leads to better outcomes of your own health, as well as your feeling of empowerment. um, as some of you know, we have been doing webinars for about 18 months. In fact, we started with this group where we started with the breast cancer webinar with Urvi, Nandita, who's also in the attendees, and Dr. Vijay. And now we've been talking about reaching out on a much more sustained basis with the cancer patients, survivors, thrivers, and wanted to kind of use this opportunity to discuss and explore and brainstorm. So as we will first start with asking Dr. Vijay about how things are during some of the concerns that people have raised and what we need to do going forward. But also I'd like each of you to think about what you would like to get from a digital support network, as well as how you would like to contribute, and we'll come to that later on. So as some of you already know, our expert today is Dr. DG Vijay, who's a breast cancer specialist from HCG Ahmedabad. Um, and we have Urvi Sabnis, who's a survivor, and I think now more than 5 years. And she has been very active in informing and engaging and empowering patients. Sheetal's been with Patients Engage pretty much from the first year, and she's a doctor, but she's also been very active with cancer support groups in Mumbai, and worked on anti-tobacco campaigns before she joined Patients Engage as well. And she's also been a caregiver for a cancer patient. And I'm Aparna Mittal. I'm the founder of Patients Engage. Just for people who are watching, this session is being recorded, but only the first part, which is the discussion with Dr. Vijay, will be streamed onto Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you really want to be a part of this meeting, I would suggest that you join on Zoom, um, especially for the second half, which is much more interactive. And for those of you who are on Zoom, you can start introducing yourselves on the Q&A panel with your name, because some of you may not have your name in there. So up to you. If you want to anonymize, that's fine. Whether you're a survivor or a primary caregiver, and from where. And if you are on Facebook, if you have questions, we are taking questions from Facebook for the first half. And our social media handles. So I will go straight into starting the discussion with Dr. Vijay. I think, Dr. Vijay, the first question that comes to people's mind is, are people with both, those who are currently going through treatment, as well as survivors, at greater risk of infection?
Thank you, Aparna. I think that was a wonderful introduction to the topic today. Survivors, those who are not on on probably on hormone therapy are at no higher risk at developing COVID-19 infection than any other average person. As far as those who are undergoing treatment, it's an entirely different ball game. It is said that surgery, anesthesia, and radiation to certain extent suppress the immunity of the patient, making them a little more susceptible to this infection. And obviously, those who are undergoing chemotherapy at this point of time during the phase of their treatment are at higher chances of immunosuppression, and therefore they are more likely to develop the COVID-19 infection.
Okay, thank you. So if I am a patient who is currently got a follow-up that needs to be done, what is the advice? Am I supposed to go ahead and do the follow-ups, or am I supposed to delay them, or am I supposed to check with my doctor? What is the advice that is being given?
We have a huge number of patients on follow-up, so it is not advisable that obviously all of them come to the hospital for follow-up as per the pre-COVID-19 situation.
Right.
So fortunately or otherwise, my phone number is available to a large number of my own patients. I think Urvi will agree on that. So they send us messages, and if there is no impending emergency, then we have delayed their follow-up by at least 2 to 3 months. So over the WhatsApp and through their own symptoms, we assess whether they are in need for a follow-up or is it a routine follow-up. So unfortunately, just a couple of days back, one of our patients had developed the disease had spread to some part of the body. And through her symptoms, we felt that she needed to come to Ahmedabad, and it necessitated further immediate treatment. So we sent her a WhatsApp message, and that was enough for her to travel from her city to Ahmedabad. We got a CT scan, MRI done of the brain, and then it indicated what we suspected, and we started radiation. So the point I'm trying to make is that unless there is a compelling reason at high risk, or there is a group of patients who are at slightly higher risk of recurrence. For example, triple negative breast cancer or HER2 positive breast cancer. Those are the patients in whom we are a little more open to having them come for follow-ups, but not very frequently.
Right. And is there also any, so before that, this patient was just within the state travel, or was it interstate?
Within the state travel. With outside the state, it's creating more problems.
Correct.
Because patients have to take permission from the collectorate. That is proving to be quite a challenge. Of course, some people have been very cooperative. The administration has been very cooperative. Based on simple letters, they have issued letters of travel, and patients have been able to come. But obviously, as you realize, the numbers are very small.
Right.
So it's a sort of a trade-off, a balance between developing COVID-19 infection en route or at the hospital, coming into contact with some other people. They would obviously meet someone on the way,
Right.
and at the same time of the disease progression.
Right.
So patients are caught between this quandary.
Right.
And that is what is bothering them. The stress of having been diagnosed with cancer and getting to the right people and getting the right treatment, and at the same time risk of infection, because one of the major strategies for preventing infection has been the lockdown, where you are supposed to stay at home and not travel. That is the big challenge.
Right. Okay, and Sheetal and Urvi, whenever you want, please jump in with your questions as well. What is the advice for patients who are currently going through chemo or radiation? Do they continue to come into the hospital to do it, or are the treatments being delayed for some? Or I'm also hearing a couple of organizations launch home chemo as well.
So those who have a completed surgery or obviously the chemotherapy has already been initiated.
Mm,
There is certain science behind why the chemo has to be administered every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks.
right.
So fortunately, the HCG Cancer Center at Ahmedabad is still functional,
Hmm.
and we have been able to take all the precautions required to ensure that compliance is met with. At the same time, as I told you, we don't want the disease. The patient has already undergone a major surgery. She's already completed 3-4 cycles of chemo, and she is uh, wanting to complete her couple of cycles. So we go ahead, take the precautions. We
Hmm.
explain to the patients that there may be a slightly higher risk of developing COVID-19 infections. But in our experience, it has not happened. Patients have maintained excellent health during the past month or so since we have been continuing to. Radiation is not a very major problem because it's much more localized treatment, and patients do not undergo a lot of immunosuppression with that. And we also want to complete the treatments because many of these patients, as you know, are in a curative stage.
Correct.
So the chances of cure are very high in breast cancer.
Hmm.
Uh, so we want them to give the best chance upfront and not delay the treatment, and therefore the outcomes will be uh, altered.
Okay. Um, okay. And in terms of patients with comorbidities, is that changing the protocols or the approaches that you're taking? So if they have diabetes, if they have blood pressure, kidney issues, etc., is that changing the approach you're taking?
I think that's an excellent question in the sense that this is a point I wanted to make in the beginning as well, that we are not subjecting all patients who come for surgery right away for surgery.
Mm,
Because, as you know, surgery, we have to do major changes in the operation theater and in the theater protocols that we would normally not do in non-COVID circumstances. And
right.
we don't want to put ourselves, the staff, and the patient and the relatives at higher risk of any COVID-19 infection. So those who can be offered any other treatment, for example, some patients who are in the gray zone and can be offered neoadjuvant chemotherapy, we either start chemotherapy at our place, and we have even taken a decision to allow patients to take chemotherapy in their hometown. If there is a qualified cancer physician in their own hometown, then we advise them that please don't travel to Ahmedabad for receiving your chemotherapies. You can take it there and come to us for checkup after every 2 cycles, every 4 cycles, and we see them and make sure that the disease is not progressing. Some elderly patients with hormone receptor positive, we have put them on what is called as neoadjuvant hormone treatment. So we have put them uh, on those who are estrogen receptor positive, put them on tablets so that the tumor can shrink, and we see them every 6 to 8 weeks and make
Right.
sure that the disease is not. So we are looking at an opportune time to operate. It is not that everyone who comes undergoes surgery. So if there is an alternative treatment available to, and if that lady is going to receive chemotherapy following surgery, might as well give it to her so that her stay and visits to the hospital is reduced. I
Right.
think you also asked a very relevant question about home chemotherapy.
Right.
So in many of these patients, we have put either PICC lines or we have put a port, and through infusion pumps. The infusion pumps are devices that administer chemotherapy at a very fixed dosage over time.
Hmm.
So those machines are given to the patient, so they don't need to be admitted within the hospital, where they are more likely to come into contact with more people, with their own family, who would obviously maintain the highest levels of precautions. The family members are obviously, in my opinion, some of the finest caregivers to cancer patients.
Right.
And that of being in a different environment is also that challenge. So they stay at home and receive chemo either through their PICC lines or through their ports.
Okay, thank you. And when patients come in for chemo on a regular basis, do they need to go through testing, COVID-19 testing? So, because I
No,
saw
they
that
don't need to.
in Maharashtra, dialysis patients have been asked to, every time they come into or every week when they're coming in, they're supposed to go in for testing.
I don't think there is any such guideline which says that they
Okay.
need to be tested every time.
Right.
So, fortunately, there has been fair consensus on various societies,
Hmm.
including the national NCG. Everybody has issued guidelines. So, patients need to be screened. By screen, we mean you take a detailed history, travel, their family members, whether they have come into contact with anyone, whether they've had a cold, cough, fever, anything in the last week or 15 days.
Right.
You check their temperatures. But, with till a few days back, the number of testing kits itself was so small that it was physically not possible to screen such a large number of patients for routine checkup.
Right.
So now the testing kits are more freely available,
Right.
and but even then, you have to be very judicious in advising the test for symptomatic patients rather than doing it more as a screening procedure for the entire population of breast and other cancer patients who come to the cancer hospital.
So,
Okay.
just a quick question: if any patient needs to be admitted, or if they have a long chemo, even where they have to be admitted for, let's say, 48 hours, are they also tested or they are just screened?
Ultimately, you have to see testing. As you are aware of the figures, the number of patients tested versus the number of patients who come positive, so that number is very small. So, what it is better probably to adapt universal precautions and treat every patient as if she is COVID positive and exercise the highest levels of caution.
Hmm.
So, at the moment, all patients at our hospitals are being given single room. So, they have only one attendant with them. They don't come into, they have designated nurses working with them, and you make sure that they are at no higher risk of developing or that if they are positive, they transmit. But it's not possible. So that government has now permitted us to test some of the patients who undergo surgery, because during surgery there is patients need to be given anesthesia. Now, when the anesthesia is given through the throat, there is a slightly higher chance of aerosol creation, and those droplets are the carriers of the virus. So in some of those patients, we have started testing, but it's a this we are discovering COVID-19 for the first time in human history. So there are no previous guidelines on which we can fall back. So the guidelines are being created as we go along, and we are learning on the way.
Question from Pranab Basu on Facebook. New patient with invasive ductal carcinoma revealed from FINAC, not accessible to oncologists due to lockdown and the doctors are not available. How to cope with the mental condition of the patient and the family members, and uh, yeah, what can the patient do? I guess this is most likely to be in Calcutta or at least in West Bengal.
If the biopsy has been carried out, then probably the blocks can be submitted for what is called as estrogen and progesterone receptor testing and HER2 new testing. Um, so if the tumor is depending upon the clinical findings, depending upon the mammography findings, and the other ER, PR, and HER2 new findings, it and if she is totally inaccessible to a cancer hospital in that vicinity, then we might start her on some hormone therapy if she is hormone receptor positive, and then wait for her to be the lockdown to uh, settle down, and then she can go and consult a cancer specialist in the area in which she lives.
Okay. I guess that leads me to my next question. You know, telemedicine is now approved for use in India. How can cancer patients be availing, make the best use of telemedicine in the current scenario?
I think if patients can also in connection with the previous question, go to a local surgeon who does the biopsy and submits the material for ERPR HER2/neu testing. The most relevant data regarding the disease clinical pictures can be taken, mammography pictures can be transmitted through WhatsApp or through any other format. Um, the biopsy reports can be sent over any media, and then there could be a tele conference over the phone in which we can discuss what are the treatment options for that particular patients. I think a lot of legal safeguards regarding the data privacy and patient privacy have come into enforcement. I think that has been one of the um, brighter sides of this entire lockdown, the COVID. So now all of this is very secure, and we can discuss with the patient what are her treatment options. Sometimes, as in the previous case, if she's totally she can't access the healthcare system, then we can reassure her that sometimes there are situations where uh, maybe a delay of a couple of weeks may not be detrimental to the final outcome. So, depending upon individual cases, we would have to tailor make our solutions for individual patients and take it on a one by one case basis. But telemedicine, I think, is an excellent idea, and it's a huge country. Internet availability is increasing. Patients have access to the mobile phone, and from remote areas, it may be a good idea. This is, I think, one of the technologies we would want to explore in the future also, where every patient need not, they come and then travel maybe 500, sometimes even 1,000 kilometers, and the amount of uh, sort of advantage that they come by coming to a major cancer center is very small. So the same thing would have probably been done through a teleconsultation, and we could have sort of prepared them prior to even coming to a cancer hospital. What are the different things that we are probably going to suggest as her part of her care?
Right. So we've got a couple of questions from Nandita. I guess one links back to all the tests being mentioned require the patient to go to a testing scanning facility. So, what are the safeguards that the patient should kind of deploy? And also how safe are, how do you find out that the testing center that you're going to is meeting the guidelines for safety?
Patients who are symptomatic, and like the previously mentioned lady, if she has a breast lump and she needs a mammogram, then even if they are coming to our own cancer center, we do not deny them. As part of a routine screening mammogram, if the lady has been operated before 5 years and now a mammogram has to be done just to make sure that everything is all right, then we would probably delay it by a couple of weeks. So they can go to any health center, get a mammogram done. Um of course, they would have to be a part of a routine screening, and there are ways to, the way we clean medical equipment or
Right.
any other these disinfectants. So all those precautions have to be taken. The staff has to be wearing a mask, the patient and the attendant have to be wearing a mask, sanitization and social distancing, and all the precautions that she needs to take to like in any other market or a mall. So similar extreme precautions have to be taken, and mammography can be done. And once the mammography is done, the surfaces are cleaned with a disinfectant, and the doctor can report the mammogram, and then further treatment can be done.
Okay, thanks. Urvi, you were asking something earlier.
Yeah, actually I missed what he said about the hormone therapy thing. That are the people who are on hormone therapy at a higher risk?
No, there is no immunosuppression with this hormone therapy. So they don't need to be any other additional precaution than. So only chemotherapy is at the patients undergoing chemotherapy are at the highest risk. The others are not at such risk. I mean, just above average risk.
Right. Okay. And I keep getting questions from our survivors that some of them have some pain at the port area or something because they don't have domestic help or whatever. So anything for them?
I think some of them have been in touch with me over the phone for maybe a little swelling over the arm or shoulder pain or
Yeah.
pain over the operated side or at the side of the port or
Yeah.
some chemo related issues also, for example neuropathy, various radiation side effects. So most most of the time we give symptomatic treatment, but at the same time you don't want to miss. Women can be very perceptive, and they may be able to detect small changes occurring, and we don't want to miss a recurrent or a metastatic cancer. So if the symptom doesn't go away, maybe after 15 days or 3 weeks, that is the time when we recall them for a checkup, a consultation and a checkup at the hospital. So if the patients don't seem to improve with treatment, symptomatic treatment, then it's maybe a good idea to recall them and have a look at them.
Mm. And there's one more anxiety which is going on, like in cancer, we have fought cancer, but at that time family was around to help us. In this case, like you have to fight your battle alone. So what would you tell them?
No, this time also the husbands are busy working with the women in the kitchen. That time the husbands had to go to the offices. This time they are entirely at your beck and call, and they seem to contribute 50% of the work that's done in the house. So, I mean, this is an anxiety that the entire country, entire world is going through. And how long this anxiety will last, nobody knows. So, you have to stay hope, stay safe, be positive. On the contrary, I think it offers you a unique opportunity to, maybe do whatever your passions are. You can do yoga. There is a lot of time to do gardening. Maybe learn something new. The key word here is physical distancing. So there is no uh, precaution against social distancing. So I have used the last 15 days or 1 month to talk to a lot of my old friends, hundreds of them actually, and family members, because previously I did not have the time to speak to them, or I was very busy. So now there is a lot of time. You can indulge in a lot of positive activities, and there is a lot of to keep the mind occupied, a lot of good things happening on television and the Netflix that you can watch and remain positive. So there is no need to worry.
Yeah. Thanks.
Aparna, you're on mute.
Sorry. So Nandita has one more question. I think she asked about immunity, because you talked about immunity suppressed for people going through chemo. So she says, just chemo or those with low WBC counts, or when the counts are low?
one of the situations is when the patients develop neutropenia, when the counts go down. That is obviously a very obvious situation when the infection is more likely and the immunosuppression is more. But even during the entire course of the chemotherapy, even when the counts are normal, there could be a lot of functional issues with the WBCs, and patients could be susceptible to such infections. So whatever precautions are already standardized, those have to be exercised. And there is a lot of data going around that maybe addition of zinc and vitamin C and generally other Indian remedies can be tried in order to keep the immunity up and strong.
Okay, thank you. So I think, thank you, Doctor. You've answered a lot of questions. Any kind of final words for our audience before we move into the second part of the session?
Those who have access, those who are new patients of breast cancer, I would advise them to be able to reach out to their local facility, get a mammogram done, get a biopsy done. Those reports can be conveyed to their nearest cancer facility, and treatment can be initiated. It's an eminently curable disease, and we don't want to lose the opportunity of being able to participate in the treatment of such a curable cancer. Those who are unable to, a small delay of a couple of weeks is not going to be so detrimental. We all have to wait. Healthcare facilities across India could be different in different areas, and the lockdown is also being very strictly implemented in some parts, and those patients could really find it very difficult to be able to access healthcare.
Correct.
For patients who have already undergone breast cancer treatment, I think they are, those who have completed their treatment, they are at no higher risk. On the contrary, they have overcome breast cancer, and they will surely overcome COVID-19. You just follow the guidelines, the ICMR guidelines, the government guidelines. Stay home, stay safe. It's an excellent opportunity to connect with friends and family, and more importantly with yourself as well. There is a lot of time for introspection, and this is a very challenging and a very not a difficult situation, but with so much time, if you plan how to use your time well, I think there is a great transformation that we can self transformation that we can do maybe over the next month or so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vijay, for taking the time.